Are you looking for an unfussy, forgiving dessert that you can literally take anywhere this summer? Well, look no further than one of our favorite southern staples, Cobbler. Here in the South, we don't just make cobbler, we celebrate it. I'm Trace Barnett and welcome to Garden Party. Today we are making the absolute dessert of the South, which is cobbler. And the great thing about cobblers is they are extremely versatile. So you can use whatever fruit you have on hand or whatever's growing out in the garden in your yard or what's fresh and available at the farmer's market. Today we are making the classic peach cobbler. We're also throwing in just a few blueberries and blackberries because I really do love a little mix of fruit inside of a cobbler. You are going to need 4 cups of fruit, and that roughly equals to about 4 large peaches. These are smaller early season peaches, so I'm going to use 6 to 8. The key here is you really can't have too much fruit, so go ahead and just throw it all into the bowl. So to get started, let's pour our fruit into a bowl. And I'm going to remove the skin off of my peaches. If you have a really good vegetable peeler at home, go ahead and use your vegetable peeler because it removes the skin of the peaches without removing any of the flesh. If you have peaches that have any kind of blemishes that may have fallen to the ground, they're perfect for cobblers. Just cut the blemish off, remove any kind of bad bruising or anything like that, and no one will ever know. And now we just remove skins. So while you are peeling your peaches, go ahead and throw a whole stick of butter in a cast iron skillet and put that in your oven. And I really just want that butter to melt, not burn inside the oven. So be sure you put your oven on about 350 and keep a check on that butter too. I love cast iron for cobblers because it really develops that good crispy crust. It also creates this wonderful, juicy, like almost, what's the word I'm looking for here? Gooey, that's it. So if you are making a cobbler out of peach season, it's super easy just to use canned peaches as well. And the canned peaches work perfect, especially if they are in the heavy syrup. Don't drain any of the syrup off, just let it kind of melt down and marry in there with the crust, and it's super good. No one will even know they're canned. So now that we've got our peach skins removed, let's just cut our peaches in half and remove the pith. And I'm just gonna slice them into just small slices. A good paring knife works well for this, that we don't worry about cutting your hand or scraping your nail against the knife. And just get that pit right out as I stab my hand with the knife. Small little slices here, and they don't have to be pretty. That's the perfect thing about cobblers, is everything can be just a little bit rustic in there. So now that we have our fruit all nice and ready for our cobbler, a few of them are trying to escape there after all of our hard work. I'm just going to take a little bit of sugar and I'm going to sprinkle it right onto our fruit there. And I'm also going to use the juice of a lime. You can use lemons as well, but I've used all my lemons in limoncello. I'm going to give that a little toss with my hands, and I'm just going to set that to the side. So what that's going to do is it's really going to bring out the natural sweetness and juices that's in the blueberries, the blackberries, and the peaches. So I'm just going to let that hang out while we make our batter. So this batter is the traditional Cuppa, which I'm sure your grandmother's made, and it's still my favorite today. So we've got 1 cup of self-rising flour, and I always use self-rising because I feel like it gives just a lot of lightness to the cobbler. I feel like some of the ratios when you're adding your baking powder into the all-purpose flour just sometimes makes it a little stodgy. I stole that from a British show. I'm gonna add in a cup of sugar, and I'm just going to whisk those together just to evenly distribute those dry ingredients there. And now comes a cup of milk. You can use buttermilk too if you have that on hand. I love that little bit of buttermilk bite that it gives it. And use a whisk when you are mixing together your batter. The reason being is because you don't want any flour clumps, sugar clumps. A clumpy cobbler is a no-go in the South. You'll get shunned. I'm gonna add a little bit of vanilla, and when I usually say a little bit of vanilla, I mean, I like a lot of vanilla, so I'm really gonna go in. A little bit of vanilla adds a little bit of flavor there. And then I'm gonna add just a little pinch of allspice, and just a little bit of cinnamon. And that does deviate somewhat from the Cuppa method, but I really just like that little bit of flavor and spice that it gives. It also makes it have a really pretty color too. Now I'm gonna make this up, and if you have time, let it kind of just hang out for a couple minutes. The reason being is because you can see that it's just starting to have some little bubbles form there. We really want that little bit of aeration because that's what's gonna give our cobbler the lift. So now comes the fun part, and that's when we are going to assemble our cobbler. Now, there is a question in the South about whether you add your fruit first and then the batter, or the batter and then the fruit. And so what I typically do is I'll remove my skillet from the oven, and I'm gonna pour my batter in first. Look at all that batter goodness flowing into there. And the butter, we're not gonna stir this. We really want the butter to kind of float up to the top, and then directly in with the fruit. And we're just gonna place the fruit directly on top. And I know if you've never made a cobbler before, it's gonna sound a little wild and crazy, but that's the beauty of cobblers, is they rise around the fruit. Now, we're not gonna stir this, but what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna take some of the fruit that was right there in the middle, and I'm just gonna push it out to the sides. And the reason I'm doing that is I just want that even ratio of fruit throughout our cobbler. And I mean, look how beautiful that is already. And just for a little final touch, and just for a little bit of beauty, because we like living in beauty here, let's just sprinkle a little bit of cinnamon on top. And so that's ready to go into a 375-degree oven. I'm gonna cook it for 40 to 50 minutes, but I would go ahead and check it at 30 to 35. You're gonna know that your cobbler is done when everything just starts to bubble up and that crust on top is nice and browned. So let's get in the oven. Let's take it to the oven. I'm not actually getting in there. You know, you don't want a cobbler where it's too cakey. Like, you don't want it where you're biting into this thick layer of cake on top. I call those fobblers, faux cobbler. You know, there's a ton of new restaurants around town that always want to come up with a new concept of a cobbler, and there's just really no way that you can reinvent the cobbler. It's just a cobbler. You know, cobblers, if you start to move around with them a lot, like change them up, I think it turns more into a crisp, or a cake, or a piece of There's nothing better than fresh out of the oven ooey gooey cobbler. And the best time to eat this, obviously, is right when it's out of the oven. Since I made it, I'm diving directly into the middle. Look at all that. And I love the combination of fruits because you really get that contrast of color, which I think is just so festive. I don't even know why I'm bending down to do this. I just want to be close to it. Let's garnish it with just a little bit of mint. And this is perfect if you are serving this outside to serve with just a little bit of ice cream. You can also make it a day ahead of time and just warm it up. I'm gonna risk my tongue's safety to dive into this. So peachy. There's some smoke coming out of my mouth. You see that? It was hot. Do you see the smoke come out? So be sure and let your cobbler cool a good 8 to 10 minutes before, unless you want to go to the ER with a burnt tongue. We used a prosthetic tongue for this video. Are you looking for a summer dessert that's unfussy, forgiving, and that you literally can haul to anywhere? Here in the South, we don't just celebrate cobbler. We don't just make it, we celebrate. I know I didn't. I was like trying to get to Heather as quick as I could. Oh my God. Okay. Perfectly peachy. Okay, hold on. You jinxed us.